My name is Terry David Mulligan, and he is Bruce Allen. Hello, Bruce. I know it's kind of daybreak, but you're up and working early. You're talking to what, Helsinki?
When you got acts on the road a lot like I do, it's nice to get in here in the morning. I try to get in here around 7:30, and then I can get something done because Molly 8 hour shift there. If you phone at 8, it's 4 o'clock. They're heading home.
Vancouver at an early morning is a beautiful city.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I got a convertible, and the weather's nice, and I don't mind driving down at all.
All right. You and I last talked. I'm going to assume that you're okay. I asked you, so you're good health wise. We lost Red Robinson. We last saw each other backstage at the Commodore Ballroom when we had a celebration of life. Just your thoughts now that it's settled on Red Robinson and his place in music in Vancouver and everybody's lives.
I think the turnout was really amazing to see the people that turned out. I hadn't seen a lot of them for years, but they we were all raised by Red Robinson on playing what he played on the radio. So it was great to see all those people there. I thought it was really nice, Molly. The speakers were very good. I thought that the stuff that Larry Hennessy did with the shows playing in the background, I thought was very interesting. I thought that was very cool. And the people, there was just a really nice feeling in there. And I know that his family that were there really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was better than it ever could be. And somebody asked me, how come you pulled that off like that? I said, well, there's a key to doing things like this. I said, no meetings. You got to cut out the meetings. We don't want to hear too many opinions. So I remember we made a decision to do this on the Wednesday. Thursday we started. Friday was a holiday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday was a holiday. So we had about 6 days to pull this together, and everybody did, and it was really great. Really, really. But a lot of people. You got to thank people like the White Spot who donated the food, the Commodore that donated the building. But that's what they all thought of Red Robinson. He was a great asset to this city. And I tell you what, I always have said I wouldn't be in the music business probably if it wasn't for him.
Well, I wanted to ask you, how old were you when you heard Red coming out of your radio?
Um, I would have been probably about 9 or 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you understand what it was, or did it take you a minute to
Well,
figure it out?
it's about the same time when Elvis was starting to get coming on and on, and I remember my mother was listening all the time, and she liked Elvis a lot. And I can remember her sitting with her watching TV, and when Elvis went on stage, and she'd shudder with her shoulders and say, "Ooh, ooh!" I just can't look at his eyes. Ooh, ooh.
Wow.
And it's just funny stuff. Black and white TV. Jeez. Anyway,
That's the effect he had.
yeah,
We'd never seen anything like that. Nothing.
no, no, it's unbelievable.
And well, we'll remember the Red. There's certain ways that we'll remember him, but we carry him in our hearts.
Yeah, you and I have talked. There's something they could do for him. He's got to get something like Jack. Well, there's Wasserman's Beat down there on Homer Street, but Hornby Street again. Hornby it is, and I think Red had the Red Theater out there. The Red Theater used to be out in Coquitlam,
Yeah.
and when they took down that sign and said, "No, we're going to change it," I couldn't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
you just don't do that, Molly.
Yeah.
You just don't do that. You might do it 60 years later, but don't do it,
Not
6
while the
years.
guy's around, yes.
God.
And so there is, you and I've been talking. There's a the state. One of the famous stages of Red Robinson's career was at Kitts Beach, an outdoor stage where bands could play, and you could go to the beach and listen to a band. And Red did his show there. That's the first time he really discovered the power of his radio and the music, because 10,000 people showed up.
Yeah, there's the great Paul Revere and the Raiders story. There's the great Bobby Cartola story. These things when he got these acts there, and people can't. They didn't know the people of the city fathers that put it on what was going to happen. They weren't in touch. Paul Revere and the boys show up. It's just packed, and streets are blocked, and people are trying to get down there. And then they remember they couldn't get them out, Terry. They had to take them on the boat out the back, had to row it out to the thing and get across to English Bay and get them out.
A lifeguard boat. That's exactly
A
right.
lifeguard boat.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
A Victoria Clinker. All right.
Yeah.
So let's see if that stage at Kitts Beach becomes something.
Well, it's like I say, there's a lot of work to do. As you know, they had the fire, Molly, so they got to tear it down
Well,
and build something that's not going to
it
happen.
just happens chance that's what's going on. That's a headline, and Red passes away. Let's see if we can remember him in one spot.
Yep. I hope we can. We should.
All right. I'm going to get caught up with you on a couple of things. First of all, the state of the music business these days. I'm thinking Ticketmaster and beyond. Where are we? What's your read?
Okay, my state of the music is business is this. As more and more comes along, and streaming obviously has taken over everything, and you can't buy CDs anymore, and vinyl's bigger than CDs, and that's for collectors really. Our business is a live business. I don't care what anybody says. Our business is a live business. Yes, you can put out records, and some people will get it played, but there's so many acts that people aren't listening to the radio anyway. The radio things are dropping. It's all streaming, Molly, and streaming doesn't make a lot of money. I talked to a friend of mine who just got an award for 1,000,000 plays, and I said, "Boy, what's that worth?" He says, "Nothing," and it is nothing. I bet you probably, and I'm just guessing, Molly. I bet he probably worth 20 grand. Now, if you sold 1,000,000 records, you'd be doing pretty good, but you don't get that with streaming. And so that's forced us all on the road. And that's why we're getting bombarded. There's so many people on the road. It's unbelievable how many shows there are. Yeah. You turn around and people don't even know they're here. I remember I went to Elton John when I was here, when I was home, and he came in and I saw the show, and somebody asked me what I did on Saturday night. I said I went to see Elton John. Oh, was he here? What do you mean, was he here? He did 40,000 people twice. Yeah. But we don't have that, Molly. We don't know who's here all the time. You got to be on, you got to join something to see all the shows that come through. But boy, oh boy, is it busy. And I mean, that's the thing. That's my hardest part right now. I got Offspring on the road in Europe. I got Adams getting ready to go on the road in America. I got Bublé, just got back from the UK. Now he's getting ready to go to Australia. Everybody's working because they have to work. What else are you going to do? This is how we make our living now.
You know who's not working? Frickin' Jann Arden. She's writing a book.
Jann Arden's writing a book, but she always writes a book, but she's always working. She's finished her tour of Canada this year. Now we got a bunch of, she does a lot of jobs for companies and that, to come in and speak. Actually, she's a good speaker, gets decent money for speaking. And I know, you want to talk about the Ticketmaster thing. I don't know where to come down on this, Molly, because I believe that sometimes, I'm sorry, you just can't afford to go. Yeah. Now, if I sit there as a season ticket holder to Vancouver Canucks and I see the first round, if they ever got into the first round, my tickets would jump to about $210 a game. And I'd watch it go up $400. By the time it got to the last round, I'd probably be paying $700 a ticket. Yeah. Now, you can go or you can't go. And that's just life. And I'm all for the artists getting as much as they can. And when I sit here in this office and listen to people whining all the time, they can't see this, they can't see that, it's too expensive. Well, you got to make your choices. But you know what, Molly? Those buildings and these arenas and these stadiums are filled with people. So somebody found the money,
Somebody somewhere.
Taylor Swift. I mean, nobody. Most of the people go see her can't drive, but how do they get the money? I don't know, but I know how they get the money. Parents are saying, "Here, go have a good time," and me and Mom are going to go out for dinner. See you.
Okay, one thing at a time. Offspring. It caught me unawares. Because I'm not a post-punk guy. I've got enough time just to focus on the music that I focus on. I thought that they were done and gone. I thought the band had imploded, and in fact, it took 7 years to get one of the damn albums out. But when it came out, there was an audience for it.
Yeah. Now this is an interesting story because I was made a vow after the end of my careers with the bands that I didn't want to manage a band again because I didn't want to talk to 5 guys. I just rather talk to one. Yeah. And I've been doing that for the last 25 years. And Bob Rock was making a record with the Offspring. And he called me up. He called me and said, "Listen, these guys, Bruce, have no management. This is a really good record, though." He says, "I'd like you to hear it." Da, 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 da. He says, "I can, Bob is my client. He's got to make some money too." So he says, "Do you think you can do anything with this?" So I said, "Okay, send it to me." And I sent it to me. And I was not a punk fan, so it's kind of didn't pull me right in. But I got people here who are, and who came out of that that time period and liked that music. And boy, did they like this band. So I thought, okay, he got a record deal in America. The kid who's the lead singer has got a PhD, for God's sake. You're not talking to an idiot.
True.
Okay. He's got a PhD. Yeah. Okay. And it's a funny setup. It's like 2 guys are actually, him and Noodles are Dexter and Noodles are the guys, right? So I had a meeting with him. Randy Burswick in my office and Sandy Bathgate in my office, who are Randy's he's been with me for 40 years. Yeah. And Sandy was a real punker. So she was jumping up and down, and I never seen her so happy. So we put the thing together and we worked hard on it. And we got a good agency for them. We got a lawyer for them. The record label he turned that around, you got to work with the record labels and stuff like that. And we do, and they worked. I thought they did a good job. Everybody did a good job. They pushed, and everything was in one direction, and the record was good. And now these guys are out there, and Molly, they're phoning me up. Like they phone every couple of shows, and I phoned the other night. They said, "This is unbelievable." They said, "We have never been in the stadiums and big rooms like this in our career." And he says, "We're selling out." The solo Berlin last night, 18,000. You know, like they're shaking their head. And it is working. And there's an act out there where Molly, ticket was only $60, 65, $70. You know, that's what they get. So it's different, but boy, oh boy, it's been a real fun ride, Molly, to see that happen.
And then they hooked up with Bob Rock, because Bob Rock, I mean, when he first started, he was working with Art Bergman. He knew what rock was all about, man. He knew it, and his ears would hear that. So it took 7 years to get that album out. Anyway, unbelievable.
We just finished a record with Gord Downie. The Gord Downie.
I know that's what I want to ask you about.
10 years to get out.
That's what I want to ask you about. That project. I know it's a large story. See if you can shrink it down for editing purposes. Bob Rock, he hooked up with the hip, obviously, but then he made a connection with Gord Downie.
He did 2 hip records, okay, over my dead body. I'm not a hip fan. I couldn't stand the hip. I didn't want anything to do with the hip, but he wanted to do it because he enjoyed the music, and so that's how he does it. So he made a couple of records, and they do what they do. The hip, you know, they're a funded Canadian funded band, and they work from here to Newfoundland. So they went out and put out their music and so on and so forth. Yeah. So Gord gets sick. I didn't know over that when I'm making those records that Gord and Bob had connected musically, and kind of were talking, and Gord wanted to, you know, they play everything in the key of C or something, nothing changed, just a jam in C. So so Rock and him sat down, and they said, you know, we'd like to do something. And they fiddled around, and the way it started is really, Gord asked, well, do you have any music? And Bob writes music kind of all the time, Terry. You know, no lyrics, but just music. Yeah. So he said about 14, 15 different things. A lot of it, some of it's written, I think, too, by Paul Hyde, you know, because he still connects with him a bit. Sure. And off those records went to Gord. And all of a sudden, like, it probably within 2 months, all the songs came back with lyrics and everything. Sure. And so Bob, you know, they talked, and he's not in good shape physically or health wise. So he had to juggle time with they were out on the road touring, or they're out making their own records, and they got things done, little bits and pieces. And it went on for a long time, longer than I knew. I didn't even know it had started really until it was probably had 5, 6 tracks done. And you knew Bob wasn't going to turn away from it. No. And he got it. He got everything done. He got everything recorded. Yeah. When Gord passed away, he left it alone for a while. He left it alone probably for a year at least. Okay. And then he went kind of back to it and started to put the thing together again and get some work and bring in some players that he wanted. And now we have the record that's out there, and it's you know, Ludwig Parfait. It's Lester Parfait is people are saying, and I don't know, you probably listened to the hip more than I did. I think Gord sounds better there with Bob Rock doing that job and a lot of good players behind him than he ever has. Well, he's free of his character. He doesn't have to play that character. He can be himself. Absolutely. And Bob got good vocals off of him, and it's a really thrilling project. Bob was talking to me last night. He's the only guy. I mean, this is a record, Terry. There's not going to be a tour. There's not going to be anything. Bob has to carry the ball, and it's kind of funny for him. So he was telling me about his interview last night with Chris Jericho, the wrestler, who's got some kind of a podcast. And of course, he's in that band Fozzy, right? They both grew up in Winnipeg. He just had the greatest time talking and kicking music around with the pro wrestlers and stuff. And he's kind of enjoying doing all that kind of work because he hasn't done that work that often. Bublé, God, my Lord, he's just, I made a note here, Australian tour, New Zealand. He's going to end up in Mexico, big stadiums in Mexico at the end of the year. All set out in front of him. And he works a small room beautifully, but he's managed to make the leap to a big, you know, it's tough to do what he does and make the connection with an audience
when you're 50,000 feet away from the damn stage. He does
He
it.
has a gift. He has a gift, Molly.
Yeah.
He can shrink a room. He can shrink a room, and he's really good at it. And he always has been. And he can. I've always said, we have these arguments all the time about the sets and stuff. He says, listen, I said, Michael, you can go up there and sit on a stool with a balloon and sing with a microphone and just sit there. And that's all you need. Why do I need 22 trucks out there going crazy? But you know, he wants all these things to be and help him get more in with his audience and stuff like that. And you know, he really cares. He really cares, Molly. He's you know, and he's tired. There's no doubt he's tired. This last run when he just got out of finished up in Dublin with 2 shows in Dublin. I was talking to him. He was tired, and I think he's home to be glad to be home. But he's got a lot of stuff when he comes home because he's involved in a lot of projects. So you'll see a lot of Bublé coming, not in the record side.
I'll remind you of the last well, not the last conversation, but one of the first conversations I really had with Michael. I'm at the Nelson. I think somebody opened a cigar bar in the Nelson Hotel. So I went down.
Yeah, they did.
At the time I was smoking cigars, and Bublé's there on a piano, singing his heart. And after his set, he walks up and he says, "I can't get Bruce to take my calls. What do I do? What the hell do I do? How do I get his attention?" I said, "You have to keep playing hundreds of gigs over and over and over, rooms like this every night. He wants to be able to walk into that room and see what you're doing and working. It worked with Adams. It's going to work with you."
And you know, the guy who did it in the end was Foster.
Yeah,
because Foster's making a record. He did it at under duress, but a push from Brian Mulroney. So he's making this record, and he phoned me up and he said, "Listen, I'm making a record on Michael Bublé." I said, "Yeah." He says, "You know him?" I said, "Yeah, I know him. He played in some of the clubs I'm involved in, and yeah, he's a good singer." And so on. He said, "What kind of record are you making, David?" He says, "I'm making a romance record." I said, "A romance record? What's that?" He says, "Well, romance songs. I think romance has gone out of the business." And I said, "Well, okay." He says, "Are you interested?" I says, "Yeah, I'm a bit interested. How much?" I'm betting on Foster now. I says, I'm interested." He says, "How much?" He says, "About 75%. He says, "I'll tell you what, I want to get you to 100. Let me send up the music." So he set up the music, all rough mixes on it. And I sent it then to 3 promoters. They thought I was making a joke. "Now you're kidding. You guys singing all these standards." And I said, "No." And I said, "I think this guy can do something." And my friend Don Fox, you know, in New Orleans got involved. My friend Carly Pope in the UK got involved, and the Canadian companies up here for Live Nation got involved, and everybody got behind it. And I can remember Don Fox when he put his first shows on in Phoenix. And he says, because he just didn't know what was going to happen. He says, "Let me give you the counts. Here we go. First weekend, Phoenix, 19. Okay. San Diego, 16. Oh, here's a big one, Bruce, because it's close to Vancouver. Seattle, 61. Oh, great." And, you know, but he pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. It was in little theaters, Molly. And we just blew that thing up, man. We blew that thing up. And it's because of Michael Bublé's show that he puts on. People come, and it's really, really something to see. Great music, great songs. Always had great songs. Foster picked great songs, and he did. And then he wrote some great songs, but he's a real entertainer, Molly. And a lot of people have lost that.
But you had to connect. You two had to connect. You had to connect.
Yeah.
It would never. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Adams. The words "tired" and "Adams," do they ever happen?
No, he's unbelievable. He's like a little engine that could all the time. He's always working. He wants to work. He loves working 2 weeks every month. And we're scrambling around getting dates all the places. He'll go anywhere. Even if it's a war zone, he'll do something. But, you know, we got him going into South Africa. He's getting booked right now, and he's going to Dubai, and he's going to places like that. And he's actually going to come in and do we haven't put the tickets on sale yet, but he's going to do some secondary markets because our tour in Canada was very, very good. And we thought maybe we should do some secondary markets. They're fun to do, you know. So we're going to do some of those in later on, late this year, early next year.
The thing about it is he's a rock and roll guy. That's what he does. And whatever rock and roll is changed, is warped so badly. I'm hoping it'll, as you know, the entire business comes full circle. It's cyclical. His times, like vinyl disappeared. All of a sudden, vinyl's back. I believe as long as Bryan wants to play, he will. That interest in his career and his songs and his style of songs will eventually come back.
Yep. I agree. I agree 100%. And it's really something. We just played down on Stagecoach with the Cowboys. Okay.
Wow.
And it was fantastic. He didn't know what was going to happen. We argued about it, but he went and did the show. He got off that stage. He was stunned. 30,000 people crowded into that area where they had to get to, and they sang every song, and he couldn't believe it because it isn't just Cowboys. It's a lot of young people, Molly, that a lot have rediscovered stuff, and they're not getting dragged around the rap and that scene over there. They're somewhere else, and they're listening to music, and it's really thrilling to see. I mean, I had a girl the other day who was 14 years old, and she talked to her mom, and her mom talked to me, and she discovered Backman Turner Overdrive, and she's playing around the house playing BTO, for goodness sakes. I thought, wow.
Well, I see Adams is heading for South Africa. Will you go with him?
Yeah, probably.
Have you been there?
Yep.
Okay.
About 3-4 times.
When's the last time you were in Russia?
That's with Adams. I never played Russia with anybody but Bryan. That was probably in the 80s.
I wonder if you'd recognize it today.
I don't want to go there to try to recognize it, to tell you the truth.
Okay, a couple of things. Your reaction to the loss of Gordon Lightfoot.
I didn't know Gordon at all, except for Tears Are Not Enough, Molly, and you remember that's probably where I met him, and I hadn't talked to him much after that. I think it's a huge loss, massive, massive talent. I went to see an Elvis thing last night, and a guy put on a show. A guy had a thing at the film festival theater to put on. He made a thing on Elvis, a history of Elvis, and put it on. And as we walked out, what he did is he had Lightfoot. Elvis singing Early Morning Rain. He did a very good job of that.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's a real classy move. There's a picture of it. They took a picture it over. It was just Lightfoot sitting there and Elvis singing Early Morning Rain. I thought, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Massive talent. Probably one of the best writers Canada's ever produced.
Yeah. And would go back and rewrite a song over and over and over again until he got it exactly how he heard it in his head.
Yep.
And got heckled by his band backstage. This band, they said they were so tired of hearing, "Oh, Gord, we love Gord." Let me tell you. Anyway, by the way, we're doing this midweek, but it is your birthday on Friday.
Yeah. Coming up, TikTok. I look at that a lot, Molly. Believe me, I've never cared about my birthday, but I mean, I'm 78 years old and I'm still doing this. What am I insane? But hey, Molly, I'm still winning. I still like it. I got a lot of young people here that keep me young, and I'm happy with it. So it's just interesting.
But I believe, like you and I have probably that in common. I don't even know this. I'm just guessing. But as long as I keep my brain going, as long as I keep pushing forward, because Meg keeps saying, "Why are you working so hard?" Well, just because I can. Because it still works. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't hate it. So that's the key too.
And
it's not like going to work, Molly.
You'll know when it's time to step off.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, okay. Well, I hope you celebrate well. And I hope you have a great year. And I'm tired of losing friends along the way. But it goes with the job now. And now at our age, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Molly, I'll hang on as long as I can for you. How's that?
Thank you, Bruce.
Take care. Great to talk to you, Molly.